First hour of third day's online contact program. I hope I am visible and audible. I want your reply in the chat box. Am I visible and audible? Can you hear me? Good morning, one and all. Good morning, my dear students. Yes, I was in Act 3, Scene 2, a very important, crucial stage of the play, where again the body of the Julius Caesar. In this, again, as I told you, in Act 3, Scene 1, Julius Caesar is killed by his own close associates, including Brutus, Marcus Brutus, Cassius, Casca, and Decius, and other seven other three more conspirators. You know what happens here? Mark Antony, in fact, suggests them to bring the body of Julius Caesar at the center of the city on a platform so that they can defend the cause, of killing. So what happens here? Mark Antony allows Brutus and his friends to defend the cause first. So it is Brutus. No, look at the way Brutus says he defends. How does he defend? Brutus. Look at the way how he defends in Act 3, Scene 2. Okay. Very, very important. These lines connote or shows what kind of character Marcus Brutus is. Again in the play, look at the way that he says, what he says about the killing. Oh, he says, not that I loved Caesar less, but that I loved Rome more. So this particular line indicates that this fellow was so patriotic and idealistic, very, very idealistic. When it comes to sketching the character of Brutus, this is what you can say. Brutus is a character who is faced with a problem that is his best qualities render him unfit to solve. Idealistic, very, very idealistic, stoic, 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 cultured gentleman, and scholar. And a scholar is a scholar. But above all, he is much high-minded to compromise with facts of corruption and self-interest that compose the political scene of Rome of his day. So he doesn't want to compromise with any kind of corruption. Let it be again mental corruption or physical corruption or economical corruption, whatever it is. You can call him as a man who is very, very reflective, idealistic, philosophical, very, very philosophical, who do not want to compromise with the principle of his life. There are certain principles which we adopt in our life, which we do not want to compromise with. Means some loyal people, honest people, do not want to compromise with their principles. So it happens. Brutus is such a character. He's gentlemanly in nature, very, very gentlemanly, idealistic, very, very gentlemanly, idealistic, philosophical, stoic, stoic, and in Act 2, Scene 1, of the play, we come to know what kind of character is Marcus Brutus. What kind of character is Marcus Brutus? In which he tries to convince himself that Caesar must die. Caesar must die for the good cause of Rome. For the good cause of Rome, again, is a masterpiece of characterization, revealing Brutus as an extremely virtuous but deluded man whose head must be forever in the clouds. So it's the for again they say he was idealistic. He followed Republican ideology. The false Republican, not the false Republican ideology. It's the pseudo Republican ideology which you cannot establish in the modern sense. You cannot establish the ideal Plato's Republican ideology in any sense in modern in modern days. In the modern days, it's highly impossible. But as I told you, this man was, as I told you, very, very honest. He was very, very loyal, and very, very patriotic. Very, very patriotic. So this particular line where he says, "Not that I loved Caesar less, but that I loved Rome more." So compared to Caesar, I love Caesar might be my friend. It doesn't mean that I don't love Caesar. But when I am given the option, when I am given the option to choose between Rome and Caesar, I'll choose Rome first. I'll choose Rome first than Caesar. Okay, and you look at the way he says, like, had you rather Caesar were living and die all slaves than Caesar were dead to live all freemen? As Caesar loved me, I weep for him. Caesar loved me. As a friend, he loved me. I weep for him. Okay, and I weep for him. As he was fortunate, I rejoice at it. He was lucky, he was fortunate. I rejoiced whenever he won the war, whenever he was victorious in the war. I rejoiced it. I enjoyed it. I was such a good friend that I enjoyed his victories. Okay, as he was valiant, he was brave. As he was valiant, I honor him. He was brave. He was so brave, valiant. I honor him. I honor him. Okay, but as he was ambitious, but there is something. There is some problem with his character, with the character of Caesar. Okay, which he feels is not at all good for the state of affairs of Rome. Okay, so as he was ambitious, I slay him. I killed him because he was ambitious. As he was ambitious, I slay him. Slay means to cut. Okay, there is tears for his love. There is tears for his love. So look at the way he's a very, very good friend of Caesar, but he is in dilemma, very, very ambiguous, very dilemma, again, very, very. I mean, to choose when he was opted to choose between Rome and Caesar, he was ready to kill his own good friend, to uphold his principles, to uphold his philosophy of life. Okay, so there is tears for his love, joy for his fortune, honor for his valor, and death for his ambition. Who is here so base that would be a bondman? If any speak for him, have I offended? Have I offended? Is there anyone who is ready to challenge me? Have I offended? Have I committed anything wrong? Okay, have I committed any mistake? Have I offended? Who is here so rude that would not be a Roman? Is there anyone in the Roman mob who says that, who doesn't want to be a Roman? Who doesn't want to be a Roman? If any, speak for him. Have I offended? If there is anybody, speak for him. Speak for Caesar. Okay, have I offended? Who is here so wild that will not love his country? ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾರಾದರೂ ಇದೀರಾ ತನ್ನ ದೇಶವನ್ನು ಪ್ರೀತಿಸದೇ ಇರುವವರು? Get the way. So very, very interesting. This character is. That is why even critics have come to the conclusion that though the play is named after Julius Caesar because of his great stature or personality, it is Marcus Brutus who wins the hearts and souls of the readers or the audience. And Julius Caesar was the first play to be staged on the Globe Theatre, which was owned by William Shakespeare. Okay, the first play to be enacted on the stage in the Globe Theatre, which was owned by William Shakespeare, was Julius Caesar. So it was first staged in the year 1599. 1599. So, as I was telling you, Cassius tries to enlist the support of Brutus because he is extremely influential and popular enough among the common people. So even common people like Marcus Brutus, they have respect. They have respect and love towards Marcus Brutus as they have for Julius Caesar. That is the reason why the cunning Cassius, who was an astute judge of men and matters, tries to enlist Marcus Brutus to his gang, to his party, to his group of seven secret Romans who conspired to kill Marcus, who conspired to kill Julius Caesar. No, he was popular among the common people. That is the reason why he takes him to his confidence. And again, to provide the conspiracy with unity and power, he needed that unity and power because people may rage, people may try to take revenge. If he involves, only Cassius involves along with the other people, excluding Marcus Brutus, it would have been difficult for Cassius to defend his cause. So, though Brutus is well intentioned, he cannot perceive the selfishness and hypocrisy of the conspirators and foolishly imagines himself leading them away from tyranny and into a kind of utopian salvation. He thinks that by removing Julius Caesar from the path, they can create a peaceful atmosphere in Rome because they feel, and these people, including the other six conspirators, including Cassius, succeeded in maneuvering in changing the mindset of Brutus. He was brainwashed that in future, if you allow Julius Caesar to survive, he would become a king, and later on he might turn out to be a tyrannical dictator. Okay, so all force of the tragedy centers around the basic irony of the man's futility and failure. All force of the tragedy, this tragedy centers around the basic irony of the man's futility and failure. His best qualities drag him down. You know, sometimes man's best qualities do drag them down. It is not right to be good all the time. ಎಲ್ಲ ಸಮಯದಲ್ಲೂ ತುಂಬ ಒಳ್ಳೆಯವನಾಗಿರೋದು ಸರಿಯಲ್ಲ. It is not right to be good all the time. So in the case of Marcus Brutus, his best qualities dragged him down. And nevertheless, as he struggles for justice and self-understanding, he proves himself an inspiration to other men, and also reflects the profound capacity of the human soul for dignity and moral grandeur. So in that sense, like you cannot, like no other character in Roman history can be equivalent to Marcus Brutus. Marcus Brutus, when it comes to nobility, when it comes to humbleness, he was so humble, noble, okay, and with a man of high ideals. That is the reason why the critics have come to the conclusion that his head must be forever in the clouds. His head must be forever in the clouds. ಆಕಾಶದಲ್ಲಿ ನಕ್ಷತ್ರದ ರೂಪದಲ್ಲಿ ಇರಬೇಕು ಇವನು. So Marcus Brutus, such an interesting character, Marcus Brutus. So what happens later on? So and Antony's political oratory is such that audience are often taken by it. His emotion is genuine. It is the subtle manipulation of the audience which lies beneath the apparent artlessness of the speech that is so clever. So what happens? Sir, some problems. I joined today itself. Can you tell me which subject you are teaching? Julius Caesar, paper 1.2. The title of the paper is Shakespeare. See, this is what happens. This again, if you are careless and if you enter the class late, I cannot help you out. Please, because I may it may distract my flow of teaching. Yeah? So, if you have entered the class late, you keep silent and listen to it. Just listen to it. So, Mark Antony, this is what he says. Look at the way this is very, very famous. They may ask you a question on this. Bring out the importance of Mark Antony's speech, because there is a subtle irony where he criticizes or mocks or makes fun of these 7 conspirators for defending their cause, again the cause behind killing Julius Caesar. Okay, the criticism is hidden. So it means the irony or satire is very much hidden. Okay, look at the way he says, friends. He is addressing the Roman mob. The Roman mob. Roman mob is also a character in the play. Okay, because they may ask you the question on Roman mob for 5 marks. For 5 marks. So Roman mob also do have a major role to play here, because every time they come in, they are also interested in the political affairs of Rome. In the initial stage, you can see the swaying mood of the Roman mob, well presented by Shakespeare. So what happens here? Initially, at the time of defending the cause of killing Julius Caesar, they were so interested, so they were so emotional and get attracted with Marcus Brutus' speech. Now, all of a sudden, again, when Mark Antony starts to address the Roman mob, the mindset or the mood of the mob again changes. Okay, means again like Marcus Antony's speech is such that he was able to succeed. He was able to succeed. He succeeds in directing his anger or his vengefulness, his revenge in the minds of Roman mob. Okay, he was able to channelize it. So direct it to again in the minds of our mansali tumbo age success akantanu. He says, you see there. This is what he says. Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. Very, very important. Okay. I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. I have come here to bury Caesar, not to praise him. The evil that men do lives after them. The good is often interred with their bones. So let it be with Caesar. The noble Brutus had told you Caesar was ambitious. If it were so, it was a grievous fault. And grievously has Caesar answered it. Here under leave of Brutus and the rest, for Brutus is an honorable man, so are they all honorable men. So you see, the word honorable contains subtle irony. So can I to speak in Caesar's funeral? He was my friend, faithful and just to me. But Brutus says he was ambitious. And Brutus is an honorable man. Look at the way he repeats that word, honorable man, honorable men. He is criticizing, he is making fun of these, he is criticizing. There is a satire. It's an attack on these 7 conspirators. He repeatedly uses the term honorable men, honorable man. Okay. But Brutus says he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honorable man. He has brought many captives home to Rome, whose ransoms did the general coffers fill. Did this in Caesar seems ambitious? So Caesar has brought many many bodies of enemies to Rome. Does it mean that he was ambitious? He has killed so many enemies in the battlefield. Does it mean that Julius Caesar was ambitious? Okay. So when that poor have cried, Caesar has wept. So Caesar has shed tears when the poor people have cried. And ambition should be made of sterner stuff. Yet Brutus is an honorable man. So you see, critics have also come to the conclusion that Mark Antony was also cunning fellow, because Brutus was innocent. Mark Antony was a cunning fellow because he wanted to channelize the anger of crowd towards Marcus Brutus, so that he was also eyeing on the power. So he wanted to, later on, at the end of the play, we come to know that it is Octavius Caesar, the cousin of Julius Caesar, who becomes the king of Rome. And later on, it is Mark Antony who succeeds Octavius Caesar. So even Mark Antony was also eyeing on the power here. Again, he tries to channelize the anger or the mood of the public towards Brutus and Cassius. He succeeds in that. That is the reason why he uses the term honorable to Brutus quite often. Which was not necessary, because even he was aware the cause or the reason behind Brutus joining hands with the conspirators in killing Julius Caesar, isn't it? So some critics have also come to the conclusion that this fellow was also a cunning fellow. Who? Mark Antony. So when that the poor have cried, Caesar has wept. Ambition should be made of sterner stuff. Yet Brutus says he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honorable man. You all did see that, and on the Lupercal, I thrice presented him a kingly crown, which he did thrice refuse. Was this ambition? When I offered him the crown thrice, Julius Caesar was not ready to accept it. Do you call it as ambitious? He was ambitious or ambition? Yet Brutus says he was ambitious. And sure, he is an honorable man. I speak not to disprove what Brutus spoke, but here I am to speak what I do know. You all did love him once, not without cause. What cause withholds you then to mourn for him? So he asks the Roman mob to mourn for the Caesar's death. I'll skip few pages there. You can read it out. So if you read the text, it will be well and good. What happens in the later for part of the play? We come to know that Octavius Caesar has returned to Rome. He had gone abroad for studies. He has come to Rome after the killing of his cousin Julius Caesar. Octavius Caesar has returned, and he joins hands with Mark Antony, and they are prepared for what? The battlefield. The battle means for the battle. They are ready to meet Cassius, Casca, Decius, Brutus in the battlefield. Okay, and again you can see the camps of conspirators, Brutus and Cassius. Brutus criticizes Cassius in front of his servants. Again, Brutus is not happy now. Okay, he comes to know that it was Cassius, the jealous Cassius, who tempts Brutus to join hands, which is a serious breach. This should not happen. So you cannot quarrel or argue in the battlefield in front of your soldiers, because if you quarrel, being the leaders of the battlefield, leading the army or the soldiers, group of soldiers, if you are leading the soldiers in the battlefield, you cannot argue yourself with the other leaders, because again that's a serious breach of the war ethics. It's a serious breach of war ethics, where soldiers will get demoralized. And what happens here? Both Brutus and Cassius try to what? Quarrel means to try to blame each other. And this Act 4, Scene 2, you can see the quarrel scene. They start blaming each other, and at the same time, you can see the quarrel scene is continued again. Scene 3. Remember where he says, Act 4, Scene 3, Brutus says, remember March, the Ides of March. Remember, did not great Julius Caesar bleed for justice sake. What villain touched his body that did stab and not for justice? What shall one of us that struck the foremost man of all this world, but for supporting robbers, shall we now contaminate our fingers with base bribes and sell the mighty space of our large honors for so much trash as may be grasped thus? I'd rather be a dog and bathe the moon than such a Roman. What is he trying to do? He feels that he had stacked his moral being by being corrupt. He has stacked means to keep something for bargain, to keep something for bargain. He feels that he has stacked his soul, he has stacked his integrity by being corrupt, by joining hands with Cassius and other conspirators to in killing Julius Caesar. And in the battlefield, he comes to know that Portia, his wife is dead. Marcus Brutus comes to know that Portia, who is his wife, is dead. She is no more. Okay, and you can see the ghost scene, Act 4, Scene 3 again. The ghost of Caesar appears in this scene, is symbolic of impending disaster. So Julius Caesar's ghost appearing in the battlefield in front of Marcus Brutus and Cassius signifies what? Impending danger, impending disaster. Impending disaster. Brutus moves towards the disaster, his final crisis. So the temporary relief he finds in the song and music of Lucius offers after the news of his wife, after the news of his Portia's death, Brutus again is in worry. So there is some music again. See in this scene, you can see Lucius helping Brutus to be in the lighter mode, because Brutus is totally devastated with the news of his wife, with the news of his wife's death, and in Act 5, normally Shakespearean plays are structured in such a way that all the plays, almost all the 37 plays of Shakespeare is designed or structured in such a way that the story stretches till Act 5. Again, not like the modern plays. The modern 20th century plays have only one act, two acts, or three acts. But Shakespearean plays are structured in such a way that all his plays are in 5 acts. Okay, and in Act 5, we come to know that Brutus and Cassius are cornered in battlefield. Okay, and Cassius, who has always perceived the practical realities of the situation around him, is now finally and fatally misled by servants' report. This presentation of Cassius has changed subtly but drastically in the course of the play. Again, driven by envy and hatred, was a subtle scheming Machiavellian, but the Cassius of the quarrel scene was a man of dignity, sensitivity, and human warmth. So by the time the play reaches the 5th act, we come to know that this man has changed, has transformed from envy, hatredness to true dignity, a man of sensitivity, a man of human warmness. Okay. So until the assassination of unscrupulous Cassius and the honest Brutus were in dramatic contrast. After the assassination, the conflict and the contrast is largely between Antony and the conspirators. The conspirator or the first of the play of the first of the play has become the haunted Romans. See, in the first of the play, they were called as seven conspirators. Now, after Act 3, we come to know that they are called as what? Haunted patriots, haunted conspirators. The conspirators of the first half of the play has become haunted Roman patriot in the second half. Cassius has predicted before in the play that he will take his own life, and Caesar's murderer has become his revenger. So Caesar's murderer has become his revenger. Okay. So what happens here? So both Cassius and Brutus have come to the conclusion that they cannot be captivated or imprisoned by the enemies. So they prepare themselves to commit suicide. Cassius has come to the conclusion that he will never allow the enemy to kill him. He will never allow the enemy to kill him. What happens in the play? He kills himself. He kills himself with his own dagger. And in fact, Brutus asks one of his servant, one of his slave, okay, to kill him. So to kill him, and with the spear, and Brutus, sit thee down, Clitus. Slaving is the word. It is a deed in fashion. Hark thee, Clitus. So it is again Brutus asks Clitus. Clitus is servant or slave to kill him, and Clitus helps him to kill in killing, and in killing. Farewell to thee, to Strato countrymen, my heart. These are the last lines of Brutus. My heart does joy that yet in all my life I found no man, but he was true to me. I shall have glory by this losing day more than Octavius and Mark Antony. By this vile conquest shall attain unto. So fare you well at once, for Brutus' tongue has almost ended his life's history. Night hangs upon mine eyes, mine bones would rest that have but labored to attain this hour. So what happens at the end of the play? So I kill not thee with of so good a will. So farewell to good, again farewell good Strato. It's not Clitus, it is Strato, sorry. It is Strato who kills Brutus, his own servant. And what happens at the end of the play? At the end of the play, Mark Antony wants to give a befitting farewell to Brutus. They allow the dead bodies of all the other conspirators to lie in the battlefield. They do not want to give a honorable, befitting farewell to all the other conspirators. But whereas when it comes to Brutus, even Mark Antony and Octavius Caesar want to give him a good farewell. So look at the way Mark Antony at the end of the play speaks about Marcus Brutus. This was the noblest Roman of them all. All the conspirators, save only he did that they did in envy of great Caesar. He only in general honest thought and common good to all made one of them. So when it comes to the killing, all the other conspirators killed Caesar because of jealousy, because of envy, whereas this man killed Caesar for a noble cause. He only in general honest thought and common good to all made one of them. So he wanted to do common good to all. So his life was gentle, and the elements so mixed in him that nature might stand up and say to all the world, nature, even nature may stand up and say all to the world, say to all the world, say to all the world, this was a man. So here is a man, here is a man, the best, noblest man you can see on earth. Octavius Caesar, in fact, Octavius Caesar, the cousin of Julius Caesar, in fact, asks his servants, the other soldiers, to bring his body to the tent in the camp. According to his virtue, let us use him. According to his virtue, let us use him with all respect and rites of burial. And rites of burial within my tent, his bones tonight shall lie. ಇವತ್ತು ರಾತ್ರಿ ನನ್ನ ಟೆಂಟಲ್ಲಿ ಅವನ ದೇಹ ಇರಲಿ, ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಬಿದ್ದಿರೋದು ಬೇಡ. ಓಕೆ, ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಎ ಸೋಲ್ಜರ್, ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಎ ಸೋಲ್ಜರ್, ordered honorably, so call the field to rest, and let's sway to part the glories of this happy day. So we have won the war. So we have won the war. We are victorious. Let us enjoy the day. And they want to give a befitting, happy, honorable farewell to Marcus Brutus. They all exit. That's the end of the play. So it's 11:07. It's 11:07. What I try to do is, you want me to take up another text or go ahead with a character sketch of the same play? I want your response. If you want me to take up another text, shall I move on to another text or complete the remaining points or issues that I can deal with from the same text? You want me to take up another text now or in the next class? I want your response. Dear students, I am waiting for your response. Shall I go on with the same text or pick up another text? I want your response in the chat box. Comment box. Okay, do the same text because it's already 11:08. Okay, and as I was telling you, so if you are asked to, comment on Julius Caesar, I spoke much about Marcus Brutus. So if they ask you a question on Julius Caesar, so Julius Caesar, as I told you, was a great military ruler, or a brilliant military ruler and a political leader in the history of in the world history. That is the reason why Shakespeare, even though Caesar is killed in Act 3, names the play after Julius Caesar. The reason is again because he is in the history of he is considered as the bravest and the brilliant military ruler in the world history. Mallikarjun, next class ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ because ಇವಾಗ ಆಗಲೇ 11:10 time. I hope you can understand my problem here because in another 20 minutes it is impossible to complete one more text. Okay, I'll sum up some of the key issues from the same text. Okay, Mallikarjun. So what happens here? A brilliant military and political leader who affected the course of world history, and he is mentally and physically infatuated with himself. Mentally and physically infatuated. He loved his own body. He was so he had fallen in love with his own body and mind. Means he was an egoist. He fell in love with his own body and mind. So mentally and physically infatuated with himself as a kind of godlike Superman. He thought again there were qualities of a dictator in Julius Caesar. As I told you, there was some dictatorial quality because he loved his bravery, his courage. As I told you, when the soothsayer asks him to be careful on 14th of March, 14th of March. So what was his reply? His reply was that Caesar is not liable to fear. At the same time, when his wife asks him to be at home on 14th of March, he says, I and danger are born, are littered on the same day. On the same day. I being more dangerous than the danger. So danger ನಾನು ಎರಡು ಒಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಹುಟ್ಟಿದಂಥದ್ದು ಇಬ್ರು ಒಂದೇ ದಿನ ಜನ್ಮ ತಾಳಿದಂಥವ್ರು ಸೊ ವಾಟ್ ಡಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಶೋಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ಡಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಸಿಗ್ನಿಫೈ he considers himself as superman he considers himself as godlike character so that is the reason why critics have called again him as mentally and physically infatuated personality with himself means an egoist very very egoist he was and you can see at the same time history it is recorded in the history that Julius Caesar was deaf in 1 year ಒಂದು ಕಿವಿ ಎಡಕಿವಿ ಸಾರಿ ಎಡಕಿವಿ ಎಡಗಡೆ ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಕಿವಿ ಎಡಭಾಗದ ಕಿವಿ ಅವನಿಗೆ ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಿರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ he was deaf in 1 year okay afflicted with epilepsy okay epilepsy afflicted with epilepsy 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 he becomes increasingly dependent on the fortune tellers so though he was brave he always wanted to know what is awaiting for him in the future he always seek what the information information about future from prophecy tellers or soothsayers. He was stubborn. He was very much stubborn in his belief in his own divinity. These ideas stirs resentment and fear in the aristocratic republicans who seek to preserve the republican ideology and they conspire to assassinate him before he becomes the king. His own there was a character lapse. There was a character lapse in Julius Caesar. There was a flaw in his character. He was over ambitious like Macbeth. He was ambitious, greed, and at the same time he was egoist, very much egoist, stubborn. He was very much stubborn, rigid and stubborn. In Act 3, Scene 1, he is assassinated. He is presented pompous and vain. Pompous, P-O-M-P-O-U-S, pompous, vain, V-A-I-N, vain, arrogant, at the same time lacks the ability to understand the motives and behavior of the people around him. He lacks the arrogance. He lacks that ability to understand the motives and behavior of people around him. ಅವನ ಸುತ್ತಮುತ್ತ ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಜನರನ್ನ ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಎಡುತ್ತಾನೆ. The reason for that is if you become arrogant and if you start loving your own body and your own strength, your own power, physical or mental power, you become what? Totally blind. You won't concentrate on things which are happening around you. Power corrupts and absolute power kills. That is what the saying is. Power corrupts. ಅಧಿಕಾರ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಹಾಳು ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ ಬಟ್ ಅಬ್ಸಲ್ಯೂಟ್ ಪವರ್ ಏನು ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ ಒಬ್ಬ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿಯನ್ನ ಸಾಯಿಸುವುದರ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಬೇರೆಯವರನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ನಾಶ ಮಾಡುವ ಲೆವೆಲ್ಗೆ ತಗೊಂಡೋಗುತ್ತೆ. ಇಫ್ ಯು ಪ್ರೊವೈಡ್ ಅಬ್ಸಲ್ಯೂಟ್ ಪವರ್ ವಾಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಪನ್ಸ್ ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ Adolf Hitler, absolute power destroys, kills, isn't it? Power corrupts, but absolute power destroys or kills. So, but Antony's funeral eulogy restores the illusion of Caesar as what? Dedicated and heroic leader and benefactory of the common people. So he was benefactor of common people. So Mark Antony's eulogy or the funeral speech again gives another different dimension or picture of Julius Caesar. We come to know that he was a man who always looked into the emotions and feelings of common poor people. So, very notable personality. The play is titled on him since he is the subject and the ruling spirit of the play, not its protagonist. He is not the protagonist of the play. He is the ruling spirit because throughout the play, even if he dies in Act 3, Scene 1, his name quite often figures. People discuss about him. In fact, in Act 4, Scene 2, we even see the ghost of Caesar appearing in the battlefield. So, after his assassination, the ghost of Caesar reveals how effectively the spirit of the great leader can still exercise, or control over the minds of Romans, and even achieve vengeance for his murder. So, what about Cassius? If they ask you to discuss again the qualities or sketch the character, attempt as character sketch of Cassius, this is what you can say. This is what you can write. Cassius, an arrogant, an aristocratic Republican who despises tyranny. He was envious, self-interested. He is the one who plots against Caesar. He is quick-witted. Quick-witted, practical and opportunistic. Is very much opportunistic. Samaya sadaka and practical, very very practical, quick-witted, and uses Brutus to help the conspiracy succeed. He uses Marcus Brutus to succeed in his conspiracy. Estrewed, cynical, realistic manipulator. He was estrewed, Shrewd, cynical, realistic manipulator. He plays on men's weaknesses. To serve himself. He maneuvers both Brutus and Casca in the conspiracy. He gives the religious touch to Casca and Republican ideal Roman Empire to the touch of Republican ideal Roman Empire to Marcus Brutus. Marcus Brutus in the Manasana Republican ideology principles ಉಳಿಸಿಕೊಳ್ಳುವ ಒಂದು ಉದ್ದೇಶದಿಂದ ಸಾಯಿಸೋಣ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾನೆ. Whereas to Casca, he gives a religious touch because he knew Casca was religious. Caesar admires Brutus but dislikes Cassius. Very very interesting. Caesar admires Marcus Brutus. Julius Caesar, in fact, Julius Caesar is also aware that Cassius is cunning. He is cunning fellow. He is hypocrite. He is an hypocrite, and that's the reason why Caesar dislikes Cassius, who once served Pompey against Caesar. At the same time, if you read the Roman history, we come to know that Cassius once upon a time helped Pompey in the past, which Julius Caesar was aware of. That is the reason why, again, Julius Caesar keeps Cassius away from power. He doesn't involve him. He doesn't give him any kind of power. Enough of a politician and psychologist to organize men into getting the job done. You can call him as a good politician and a psychologist. So he knows how to manipulate people. So again, at the same time, you have a character called Mark Antony, who is confident and loyal friend of Julius Caesar, after his death, forms an alliance with Octavius and Lepidus against Cassius and Brutus. He is extremely obedient to Caesar and the closest companion. Mark Antony is the closest friend of Julius Caesar, and the loyal friend, confident and loyal friend, closest friend of Julius Caesar. Okay, extremely obedient he was. On the surface, he agrees with the two men and pledges allegiance. Allegiance means partnering, to give company. Okay, in the initial stage, when Julius Caesar was killed, he agrees to be part of the conspirators. He says that I am also ready to defend your cause. So what happens? He pledges allegiance to them. However, upon the exit of 7 conspirators, Antony, through soliloquy, proves his loyalty to the late Caesar, vows vengeance on the hand that shed this costly blood. He vows vengeance. ಪ್ರತಿಕಾರ ತೆಗೆದುಕೊಳ್ಳುವ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರತಿಜ್ಞೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ. ಟು ವೋ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ VOW. ಟು ವೋ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ಪ್ರತಿಜ್ಞೆ ಮಾಡೋದು. ವೆಂಜಿಯನ್ಸ್ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ವಾಟ್? VENGENCE. ವೆಂಜಿಯನ್ಸ್ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ಪ್ರತಿಕಾರ. VENGEGEANCE. Vengeance means pratikara. The hand that shed this costly blood is a pleasure seeker. Another important aspect is Mark Antony is a pleasure seeker. Pleasure seeker. He enjoys music and plays. As I told you, he enjoys music and play. I had told you about that. So extremely cunning. At the same time, Mark Antony is extremely cunning because he wants to keep Brutus away. He was fully aware that Brutus is innocent in the killing, but still he wants to keep him away. Abay, at the edge. He wants to keep him at the edge. He doesn't want him to come close to the power. He was cunning fellow. Mark Antony was a cunning fellow, extremely cunning and astute with excellent rhetorical skills. He has that good orator. He had that rhetorical skills. Smart, intelligent fellow when it comes to addressing people. Okay, and in Act 3, Scene 1, he manipulates Brutus into letting him speak at Caesar's funeral. He manipulates Marcus Brutus. In fact, it is Mark Antony who advises in Act 3, Scene 1 to Brutus to address the Roman mob, okay, and to defend his cause. He uses the same platform to undermine Brutus. He uses the same platform to undermine Marcus Brutus' monopoly on the situation. So look at the way he puts the blame on Marcus Brutus. Did this in Caesar seen ambitious when the poor have cried. So I read it in the text. So how about the two women characters? One is Portia, wife of Brutus. They may ask you for short notes. Wife of Brutus, Portia, okay, wife of Brutus and daughter to Cato, a well-known Cato, CATO. She was a daughter of Cato, a well-known Roman patriot and idealist who fought with Pompey against Caesar, kills himself rather than suffer ignoble captivity. So this Cato fights against Julius Caesar in the war because he was the party with Pompey. And Cato's daughter was Portia, who was the wife of Marcus Brutus. That's another important aspect. Portia, an extremely devoted wife, courageous, determined to share her husband's innermost tensions. She is courageous and very much determined to share her husband's innermost tensions. She loves him deeply. Deliberately gashes gashes her thighs to prove herself equal to his problems. Okay, commits suicide. So she deliberately try again expresses her concerns or feelings towards her husband to prove that she was equivalently loyal to Brutus, equal to, and she was equivalently ready to share his problem. She wanted to prove that. So she commits suicide. She commits suicide in the play because should not forget that Marcus Brutus was fighting in the battlefield against the army of Roman Empire, and she was lonely at the palace. What happens? She commits suicide. She gains our sympathy. So as a reader, you and me, we all have sympathy towards Portia. Noblest woman character among Shakespeare's women characters. She is the noblest woman character. Convincingly human as a character. She is convincingly human as a character. When it comes to Brutus, though Brutus is a tragic hero whom we pity, the art of his tragedy is the defeat of his cause. Is the defeat of his cause. So his cause of upholding the Roman Republican ideology is defeated. There we find sympathy for Brutus. Sympathy for Brutus. So his death is but a symbol of greater disaster, the death of liberty. So he stands as the epitome of the values of epitome of holding what the values of liberty, republican ideology, which is based on equality, liberty, and fraternity. Okay, so there is another character called Calpurnia, the wife of Julius Caesar. She is weaker in stature and intelligence. She lacks the hold over her husband. She lacks her hold over her husband and his husband's minds and feelings. Her barrenness, nervous dreams, excited addiction to superstition, her fretful attempt to keep her husband from attending the Senate, all seem to make her weaker, less admirable woman than Portia. Her concern for her husband's safety indicates that she is sincere and loyal when it comes to her love towards her husband. Thank you, one and all. That's all about Julius Caesar. I hope I was able to give justice in these two sessions on this text called Julius Caesar. I hope you all understood the basic issues that is discussed in the play. I hope you all found it interesting. You all found the play interesting, and I expect your best again your answers to be the best in the exam. So write good answers. I hope I have discussed every bit of minute detail on this text. With the shortage of time, I cannot read each and every line. I could not read each and every line. Sorry for that, but still I do feel that I have given justice for the allotted time on this particular text. So in the next hour, I'll be dealing with another important text by by William Shakespeare, that is The Merchant of Venice. Thank you, one and all. I meet you once again tomorrow with another text called The Merchant of Venice by William Shakespeare. Meet you tomorrow. All the best for the remaining part of the day.
Good morning, everyone. In today's session, I am going to talk about Maul Flanders by Daniel Defoe, and it is from Hardcore 1.3 under the title Restoration at 18th Century English Literature. So, as we all know, that Daniel Defoe was the first realist novelist who started writing about realistic fiction. And in order to know that his name is strongly associated with the rise of the novel form, actually he started his writing, and he is a multifaceted personality, and he started his writing Robinson Crusoe, which appeared in 1719. But Maud Flanders, what I'm going to talk about the novel today, is was published in 1722. Hope I'm audible enough so that you can hear me. Yeah, let me move on to my get back to my topic. So, as I told you that Daniel Defoe is the author of this novel, and his name is strongly associated with realistic fiction as well as the rise of the novel form in English literature. So, narrative types that flourished before Daniel Defoe's time were mostly romances and other histories like that. But works that especially stressed chivalries, ideals of courage or loyalty, and so on. And through supernatural and courtly adventures, earlier romances or histories used to construct, and the authors used to construct their novels or plays based on this. But then a new society was emerging into being that Defoe's task was emerging. And so far, there was no such terms or no such community or class like middle class, only upper class and lower class. But at the time of Defoe, the new form of society was emerging, which was called middle class. So many scientific discoveries and trading enterprises of those times become possible because of these middle class people, not because of this middle class. And even a language also different of pertaining to this middle class people. Language was also different from lower class as well as the upper class, and this language is also different from the writers, the earlier writers or previous writers of romantic plays or romantic stories or histories. And it was this kind of language was being increasingly used in the exploration of the physical, commercial, and literary worlds. So Daniel Defoe was at that society, and he was at that particular point of time when middle class was emerging, and he started using the language, and which is colloquial. Okay, and even we can also some according to some critics, this is also some kind of peculiar language Defoe started using because he laid the foundation for the realistic fiction in the history of English literature. So this was also the period that saw the rise of journalism. And as I have mentioned earlier, that Daniel Defoe was not a born writer, and he never wanted to be a writer. He never dreamt that he is going to be a writer. But he was a multifaceted personality. Earlier, he was a pamphleteer, and he was a journalist, and he was a politician. He was into politics, and so many other things. And later, because of some other life experiences, made him because of his journalism, what I can say, career, made him to start writing the novels, and especially when this period, the middle class was emerging. This was also the period which saw the rise of journalism, when the women of this middle class enjoyed a greater leisure at that time. And this was the atmosphere at the time of the emergence of modern novel. What do you mean by modern novel? Nothing but realistic fiction. So the novel is a form that Daniel Defoe inaugurated, is described by a very well-known author and critic and a scholar, Arnold Crickettle. Thus, according to him, a realistic prose fiction, complete in itself and of a certain length. And in his work, like that, an introduction to the English novel, Arnold Kettle describes the Defoe's form of writing the novel, and that is nothing but a modern novel, that is realistic fiction. So the emphasis is not on length or but on realism. realistic identity, or we can say the realistic portrayal of the things or the people or the characters or the surroundings where the author lived and in what, what time or in what kind of society he lived in. So the stress was given, or preference was given, not to the length of the novel, but to the reality. Okay, so then we can also find that this novel, especially as I am talking about Moll Flanders, this is considered as a picaresque novel. And if somebody asks some question, can you please give me example for Moll Flanders picaresque novel? You can rightly say that Moll Flanders is often termed as a picaresque novel. But what is a picaresque novel? There are certain characteristic features of this was picaresque novel. First, let us know the origin of this word. Here, in this kind of novel, the central character is always a rogue, okay, or a criminal, or a marginalized person. The word picaresque comes from the Spanish word picaro, which means a rogue. But this is a rogue whose human self is quite conspicuous. And the central character of this picaresque novel is a kind of or special type of rogue who is good natured, but who doesn't enjoy full membership of the society. And he may be he or she may be a thief or a prostitute or a monk or a nun or a child or a slave. So any of these could be the central Am I audible now? Hope I am audible. Can anyone please reply me? Am I audible now? Yeah. Let me continue with this novel. As I have told you that I in this session I am talking about Defoe's well-known novel Moll Flanders. Yeah. You want me to repeat it again? What I have taught you so far? Just I was giving an introduction. Okay, don't worry. And I was talking about what is a picaresque novel and what are the main features of a picaresque novel. And first, I told you the origin of the word picaresque. This is the word. This is a Spanish word. Sorry, picaresque has been derived from a Spanish word picaro, which means a row. And normally, the central characters of this novel is always a row or a special type of a row who is good natured, basically, but who doesn't enjoy the full membership of the society because of his birth, I can say. Sometimes the central characters of this picaresque novel may be a thief or a prostitute or a criminal or a child or a sannyasi or a monk or a slave. Okay? Any one of these could be the central character of a picaresque novel because they are not considered as a full-fledged members of the society. And can we go and what, to talk freely with a thief, or do we wish to go and make friendship with these kind of people? What I have mentioned so far, no. That's why these are the people, or the thief or prostitute. These are all people. They cannot enjoy the full membership of the society because of their due to their birth. And we can also consider this novel as a novel of the road, because this novel, the setting of the novel, here the Picaro, the central character, he doesn't exist, or he doesn't stick on to one place. He keeps on wandering from place to place. That's why this novel is considered as the novel of the road. Okay, because the action of this picaresque novel, it is not limited to one particular place. Whereas I told you that the central characters are more adventurous and they wander from place to place, so that it will allow them to get to know so many people from different sections of the society. For example, even doctors, lawyers, and some prisoners sometimes, and even what actors, priests, and clergyman, or even a teacher or a professor, like that. And next important characteristic of this novel is he or she moves from place to place and from job to job. Normally, because of this, Picaro frequently changes their identity, his or her identity, voluntarily or involuntarily, because the situation makes them to do so. They don't want to keep, they don't want to reveal their true identity to anyone. For example, you can take any novel for that sake, especially Picaro's novel. That's why even their identity also not known to anyone. Picaro usually makes his way in this world through tricks rather than through knowable work. Because I told you know, they are a thief and they are prisoners. Sometimes they are prostitutes, like that. And the story is usually narrated by the Picaro himself. This is another important feature of this novel. The story, who is the narrator of this story? The Picaro himself. Again, are you facing the same problem? I really don't know. Many times I logged off and logged in. And please, students, you have to log in through faculty, not faculty links, student links. And this I came to know yesterday because many students are trying to log into the classes by using faculty link. Don't do that. Please, you have to log in through students link only. Yeah, I'll continue again. It, maybe sometimes it due to network issue from your end, because I have checked my network connection here. Everything is proper, and even my audio is also clear. Yeah, we are wasting our time only because of this, due to this technical snacks, right? Yeah, let me move on to my novel. As I told you, as I was discussing about important features of English picaresque novel, how the picaresque word has been what come into existence in English literature, because picaresque, this word has been derived from picaro, the Spanish word, right? Next, it is a novel on the road. The narrator of this novels, normally protagonist, Picaro himself. And who is the Picaro? And they are all the people marginalized, especially marginal section of the society. Okay. Again, some I had to face some technical glitches again. Yeah, let me move on to the picaresque novel. As I started with, as I told you, this is a novel on the street, and the Picaro keeps moving from place to place and from job to job. That's why she or he hides their identity, because they don't want to reveal out their true identity to their what friends or colleagues or the people around them. And the story is usually narrated by whom? The Picaro himself or herself. And this is a first person narrative. Normally, this Picaresque novel will be narrated from the first person. So it usually ends with the seeming reform of the Picaro. And at the end, we can find some reformation in this Picaro, because they're all thieves, criminals, I told you. They're all marginalized section. They belong to the marginalized section of the society, any society where they lived in. And the plot of a picaresque novel is also not in the way, there won't be any continuation, but instead it is in a episodic manner. But I'm audible enough? Are you following? Yeah. And there's the story or the novel, which will be in the episodic in nature, not in regular form. And sometimes the Picaro talks about the present, and again she or he goes back to their past. And somewhat like we can find that the author also employed the flashback technique, that stream of conscious technique or flashback technique in a simple form. So the Picaresque novel serves the purpose of social satire as well, because the author wants to attack the society or satirize the society by upholding the loopholes of the society. So usually these novels are satiric in nature. And the Picaro on his journey, he meets all kinds of people or all kinds of characters like policeman, doctor, physician, or what even a clergyman, bankers. But sometimes she or he himself, without a definite social identity, I told you, they themselves they cannot able to enjoy the full membership of the society, but still they keep on changing their identity. And excuse me, how can you consider Maud Flanders as a picaresque novel? And you can see that Maud Flanders answers to the description of a picaresque novel, and we can apply all kinds of picaresque characters or characteristic features to this novel. And when I tell you the plot of the novel, then you say that, of course, this is a picaresque novel, because the novel offers a series of interesting incidents and adventures involving Maud. Moll Flanders, this is a name of a central character and a female character especially, and she happens to be a picaro, and she acts as a thief, and she sometimes actually she had to become the prostitute because of the situation which she lived in. And these episodes have no organic link between, though she was adventurous sometimes, though she was so merciful, and so sometimes we also feel we also pity her situation. So Moll, she marries many times, and still she could not be able to get a certain identity, and she becomes a thief, and later she has affairs with many men, and in each of these roles she struggles for social identity, and nowhere she gets an identity, and even nowhere she feels that I'm intended or I'm contented in my life. And she done so many things in order to fill her belly, I can say. And she says, in the course of the novel, because of, in order to feed my belly, I have to approach all kinds of occupations, what my soul not intended, like that. And that's what I told you, that we sometimes we really pity for this female character. And even she, as I told you, that she wears so many masks, but no mask, in order to cover her true identity. Sometimes she becomes a beggar. She has to become a beggar, means in order to protect her identity, she has to wear a mask of a beggar, and she disguise herself as a beggar, and sometimes in a man's attire, sometimes in an old woman's attire, sometimes in a widow's attire. Okay, like that. So, and she keeps on changing her identity constantly, and she travels from one place to another to settle down in her life. And at the end of her life, we can see that somewhere she settles down, and she pretends to lead a very good and sober and even dignified life and satisfied life. But still, whatever she had done, it just didn't go out of her mind. So this is very important for us to know how Moll Flanders led her life all through, and especially this novel can be considered as the criticism of the 17th century English society that Daniel Defoe offers or portrays through Moll without any color. And he doesn't want to hide anything, and he just wanted to show us the dark secrets of 17th century, and it was somewhat like uh, and even the sorry early 18th century. Small Flanders, I told you, which was published in this is a novel which gives an account of the adventures of okay, who is a woman here, none other than Moll Flanders. Okay, so throughout the novel, even Moll Flanders was not her birth name. Do please, you have to bear it in your mind. Moll Flanders, it is a given name. Okay, even till the end of the novel, we don't know the actual name of a Moll. So she is portrayed as a very lusty, desirous, and strong-willed woman who is compelled from her earliest childhood to make her own way in the 17th century England. In this novel, Daniel Defoe has portrayed the dark secrets, okay, in the underbelly of 18th century England. What was going on, like the underworld of, we can say. So the plot is summed up in the novel's full title. Like, actually, the actual title of this novel was earlier, "The Fortune and Misfortunes of the Famous Moll Flanders." Okay, this was the actual earlier title of this novel. Then when the friends of Defoe advised him not to keep such a big lengthy title, just use shorten it. Then he kept the title of the novel remained to Moll Flanders, who happens to be the central character. And later, Moll Flanders, the story or the plot of this novel begins like this. Like we get introduced to the main character Maud Flanders, who was born in a Newgate prison. You should remember this all these things because the novel ends also ends in the same prison. I'll tell you later. And she, the central character, who was born in Newgate prison, and during a life of continued variety of three score years. One score is equal to how many years? Again, are you facing the same problem? Oh God. Okay, let me re-log in. Let us see. Yeah. Can you able to hear me now? Actually, today I have selected a very interesting text, but due to this technical problem, not able to finish it off. Don't know. Yeah, audible. Can you able to hear me now? Yeah, let me continue with the text. As I told you that in order to a summary in a nutshell form, we can say take that this central character, the story goes like this. The central character Mall, she lived her continued variety of three score years, that is 30 years. Besides her childhood, she was 12 years a whore, 5 times a wife, and whereof once to her own brother. Okay, then 12 year a thief, and 8 year as a transported felon in Virginia. And at last she grew rich and lived honest and died as a penitent. And this is written from her own memorandums. This is the gist of the novel. Okay, during her three scores years, besides her childhood, okay, besides her childhood, 30 long years, how she lived? 12 years as a whore and 5 times a wife, and again 12 years as a thief, and 8 years as a transferred felon. And last, she grew rich, and she died as a penitent. Okay, yeah. And we should note the full title of the novel, Moll Flanders. As I told you, that the fortune and misfortunes of the famous Moll Flanders, who was born in Newgate prison, and during her life she never had a particular identity, and she never ever lived a peaceful and satisfied life, because the society, at the end of the novel, we Defoe gives us a message that whatever happens in the life of Moll, this is just an example, but this happened in many lives of women during 18th century in England, when industrialization was its full peak. Okay, so the title of this novel speaks of the long and scandalous life of Moll as a wife, and as a whore, and a thief, and as a felon, transported felon, prisoner. But the change has less to do with the morality and penitence than with accumulation of wealth. And she doesn't want to steal somebody's things, or food or asset, not to enjoy the posh life or luxurious life, and just to feed her belly, as I told you earlier. So at last, Moll, she grew rich at the end of her life, at the verge of her ending of her life. She becomes rich. But what is the use of it, right? And the balance is between the immoral life and the wealth. And in order to what stop that wealth, what all she had to do, she had to be a wife to so many men, and she had to be a thief, and she had to be a whore, right? The title must compel us not just to regard the work as a study of the character of Moll, but to pursue so many questions of conduct, right, and condition within herself, and what kind of life one should lead in order to sustain or survive in this competitive world. So, in the various episodes in Moll's life, we get illustrative support to the general picture of men that Moll has drawn in the passage quoted above. So, in a word, that the character of men is also not just one, and it doesn't encourage a truly domestic atmosphere, whereas a domestic harmony that doesn't depend upon the subordination of the wife, which is not available in Moll's world. And there are many characters help who help Moll to become a thief, and sometimes they also indirectly support her. And who are they? To start with, governess. Okay, the governess, between the episodes dealing with the Lancashire man and the bank clerk, especially Lancashire man was her fourth husband, because I told you in the beginning itself, she marries 5 times. Okay, she marries five times, and Lancashire man was fourth husband, and bank clerk was her fifth husband. And her life, or her episode, I can say, between between her fourth husband and fifth husband, there appears a very interesting character, that is governess. And later, actually, in fact, she was a midwife who also does some kind of prostitution or whoring business. And she is an abortionist, but later, for a payment, she undertakes to get rid by other ways of an unwanted child. Because the payment is, of course, the money is important at that society, and for the money's sake, they not only women, even men were also willing to do anything they wanted. So the payment is, of course, for the upbringing of the child, and in either case, the mother would be unburdened. She also trains Moll later, when Moll had to approach the occupation of a thief, because she had no other alternative. She had to become a thief in order to lead her life in that society, because at that time she was quite an old woman, and how can she marry anyone at that particular time? And I think after 48, at the age of 48, so she had to approach the life of a crime. Got it? So in that occupation, or in that phase of her life, again this governess reappears in her life, and she literally trains Moll in this kind of criminal activities, because this governess has a very good connection with the thieves and some other underworld dons or underworld people, and she remains a helping friend till the end of Maul's life. And throughout the novel, especially after that incident I told you, after her fourth wedding, uh, from her fourth wedding to the Lancashire man, Maul Flanders, Maul is connected with this governess, and she happens to be a midwife. And she also as I told you, that she becomes a very good friend of Maul, and it is completely, and she also becomes a very loyal friend to Maul's financial interest. And however, like many other interesting characters in the novel, she also remains as a shadow. So, in order to understand so many other characters, you have to read. And what are the first steps Maul starts, or she commits at at her career as a thief, as a career, as she approached the career of a criminal. Okay, and at the age of 48, I told you, Maul started her career as a thief, and this is a critical time in her life, and the relationship between her and her people, especially readers, it gets more and more interesting, and she becomes bolder in her narration, and instead of only seeking the sympathy indirectly, she challenges the reader whether he would be morally invulnerable and when placed in her position. And she also says, in just I would like to read out from the book, and she says, let none read this part of my life without seriously reflecting on a desolate state, because now she is in a desolate state. That's why she hugged the occupation or profession of theft. Okay, and how they would grapple with want of friends and want of bread. She says why she had to approach, or she had to embrace the crime of, or the life of crime, because she wants to earn the bread, and she was the breadwinner. And though she married 5 times, none of her husbands remain her till the end of her life, and it would certainly make them think not of sparing what they have only. And that's why she says that, but of looking up to heaven for support, and of the wise man's prayers, give me not poverty, less I steal. See, this is a very beautiful statement made by Daniel Defoe. Why she had to approach the embrace the crime, a profession of crime, because of her penury condition. She is in dire poverty, utter poverty, and nobody was there to support her, not even her husband. Not, and first of all, she doesn't have parents. I told you she was born in Newgate prison, right? And after that, her identity, as well as she was just I think she was just 3 months old baby when she was carried out of the prison, and some nun, some nurse, she takes care of this baby by leaving this baby nearby parish church. Okay, there she started growing up without knowing her identity and without knowing her parents. Just imagine what kind of a life she led throughout her life, and that's why she says, I told you that by not knowing her parentage and by not neither taking the support of her own people, she had to approach various kinds of crime throughout her life, and that's why she prays. How this is somewhat like heartrending situation. But after at the age of her 48, she says, she confesses with the readers, and this is this unique style of Defoe's writing, I can say. See, he just puts words into Maul, and for the first time, he is taking a female character as a central character of his novel. And in that century, I think that's what he laid the foundation for the modern novel, where he has not only taken female as a central character, so he made her as not a virtuous character, but worthless character, like wise, who is filled with wise means sinful character. But still, by portraying her true life, and he is attacking the society, 18th century feminist society because this is the way you are treating women. Okay, the two helpless women in the society. Such a wonderful novel. That's why D4, the way he writes, it also attracts, and it also we also feel readers also feel empathize with the character. Sometimes we also sympathize, not only sympathize but also empathize with the character because the statement she makes throughout the novel and the way she defends her crime, every crime, whatever she commits. Okay, then this is how she prays to God, and she says no, always looking up for up to heaven for the support, and also wise men prayers. She says, "Give me not poverty, lest I steal." Okay, why she is praying? What she is praying? Please don't make me a poor girl here, and please don't give me poverty because I have to steal in order to feed my belly. So here it appears in I think some page number 200 like that, and even of the book. And she also says that let them also remember that the time of distress is a time of dreadful temptation, and this is the message D4 is giving us through all. Okay, when all see, not every people is born a criminal or born what I can say thief, but only the time and only the situation makes them to do commit so many crimes. That's why D4 in that century itself he has said that let them remember, which means we all should remember that a time of distress is a time of dreadful temptation, and when we are in distress, definitely we also tries to get something and earn something by hook or crook, right? And in this condition, we have our central character, okay? Because nobody is there to support her. She is getting old, and though she had she had given birth to 8 children, but not even a single child is on her side, except that midwife was her named governess. See, here also, Daniel Defoe never revealed the true identity of that governess, and he throughout the novel we can say that all the characters are named after their profession, not their actual name. So he also, that's why he says that let them remember that time of distress is a time of dreadful temptation, and all the strength to resist is taken away. So this is the challenge made by Moll just before she commits first theft. The usual narrative tricks that Moll employed to gain the reader's sympathy till now are all to be recognized even in this episode, because when she goes on marrying 5 men, we never feel that why this lady is doing this, because the society, when she gets married with the first husband, Robin, okay, he's Robin. Actually, she after she was taken into the parish church by that midwife, and she started learning sewing and so other knitting work by that nurse. And after the death of her, she had no hope in her life because she doesn't know who is who she belongs to, which family, which family, or even as I told you, her parent is unknown, and she doesn't want to lead her life by depending on her hitting or saving or so many other things. And she has to search for a new life, and she goes on searching for a job, and then she comes to know that there is a job nearby landlady place, and then she goes and she somehow she gets a job in that estate, and there that landlady has 2 sons and 2 daughters. But unfortunately, just I'm giving you a story in just a nutshell form, and then she falls in love with her elder brother, but the elder son of a landlady. But he also feels, and he also pretends that he is in actually love with the mall, but in fact he cheats her. And when she gives her, when she asks him to marry her, he says, "You are a servant at my home, so I can't marry you." Whereas his own brother, younger brother, Robin is in truly love with Moll, and this is the situation. If some girl would have been there in her position, definitely she wouldn't have married a younger brother, or just because with the vengefulness, with severe vengefulness, she would have left that place. But Moll, she didn't do like that. What she did, because she had to live, she had to live in the same society. Where else she could have gone? That's why she doesn't have any other option. She has to marry the younger brother of the same person whom she really in love with. But unfortunately, after 5 years, he also dies. And next, she and by the time during that 5 years span of years, she gives birth to 3 children, I think, and she leaves all 3 children under the or the in charge of her uh, mother-in-law, and she's very supportive. That Landy is very supportive and very understanding, because she also thinks that Mom was very young, and why should you lead a below life? And please, you have to look for your own fortune, and just try your luck like that. So next, she happens to marry a draper, a cloth merchant, because those were the days. Not beautiful women were in more demand, but rich widows are in demand. And the society, and even more, was also a very beautiful lady, very, very charming, graceful woman, and everyone used to fall for her at the very first sight. Okay, so the draper, he thinks that her second husband, he thinks that she may be a rich widow, and he lose all her money, wealth, everything. And once she becomes bankrupt, and he also, because he wanted to live a very posh life, and he spends so much of money on that furniture and so many other things. And because I told you, he's a lavishly spending person, and he also becomes bankrupt. And overnight, he says to Moll that money lenders will come in search of me. So Moll herself, I told you that's what these Picaros, though they are thieves or not virtuous characters, but still they are good nature. Moll herself helps her second husband to leave for some other place, so that I tell the money lenders that not to search of him, because he has already left, and I don't know where he has left. So her second marriage also end like this. And the third husband is none other than her own brother, and even she didn't know. And we readers, we also don't know what happens after giving her birth, or after she was born in a Newgate prison, because she was born to a female criminal who was serving the punishment in a Newgate prison when the novel opens. Right? And for the third time, what happens after the second husband leaves, she goes in search of some other job, and there's no way she finds. And meanwhile, she happens to meet a ship of a captain of a ship. Okay, and he is from Virginia. And both of them, they also, I told you that Moll is such a loving lady and very graceful woman, very beautiful and very impressive woman, I can say. And he also falls for her, and both of them, they think that one day they realize neither of them are rich. So he suggests her, he lives with her mother in Virginia. So let us, both of us, will sail to Virginia and we start a new life. And both of them, they go there, and even she started living a very peaceful life. And one day, she, unfortunately, she comes to know that with whom she is living, her own brother. And her mother-in-law is none other than her own mother. So after knowing the truth, her conscience doesn't believe them. She just leaves that place, and she comes back to London, and she goes to a place called Bath, where that place is known for such kind of adultery and so on things. And there she happens to lead a life of a prostitute or a whore for 8 long years. and she has a has an affair with a businessman, and he also thinks that his personal life is not good, so he has to. And this is somewhat like I can say they're living together relationship, and even we cannot consider this as a marriage. And after that, she one fine day that man realized this is not a life we are leading. I have to get back to my family, so you have to take your own way, and you have to take care of yourself by giving her some amount of money. He just leaves from that place, and again Moll comes back to England, and there she happens to meet her Lancashire husband, fourth husband. Okay, he's the fourth man in his not the fourth man, fourth husband in her life. There are many men. This fourth husband, he is also not very intelligent compared to Moll, and they also started leading the life for a few days, few years, and she becomes pregnant. I think this is the sixth child. Okay, and she um, she was she was conceived, and he this guy, because he those were the days, it was not the life was not a bed of roses in that when the industrialization was taking place, and there was so much of poverty, unemployment problem. So this fellow had to search for a job, and he says that I will leave for some other country in order to get some earnings. Meanwhile, you have to take care of yourself here. And Moll, having a small baby in her womb, she had to take care of herself all alone. And this is the time. See, after listening to her true story, where though we think that what she is doing is not worthy thing, but still, do you sympathize with her or do you criticize her? Right? This is the open ending novel, I can say, and Defoe has left us to think what he has written and what we have to think. So again, after giving birth to that's what I told you, the governess, the character enters in her life during this phase. Then after giving birth and handing over that child in the hands of governess, she had to marry another last husband, another person, the bad luck. So this is the life of crime. Again, I think not a worthy life she was leading all through, and that's why this somewhere this novel uh, is also considered as a realistic fiction, and which also was satiric in form. Um, there are many themes in this. Yeah, again, do you have any problem again? Same problem. Okay, let me continue this in my next session. Thank you. If you have any doubts, you can ask me. And some students say I am audible, and some say I am not audible. You have to bear with us because in these online classes, these are the normal problems, regular problems we are facing.
Good afternoon, dear students. I welcome you again to this third day online classes to the first year, first semester CBCS MA English students. Yesterday, when I was teaching a play, good afternoon, Kavita Manjulakar. Yes, some of you saying messages. Good. So I always expect that you have to send some messages so that I confirm that the voice and the visibility, the camera is on, and you are able to listen it very clearly. I'm glad if there is no technical issues today. And anyhow, and so far I have taught you two texts. Good afternoon. One is. The Rape of the Lock by Alexander Pope, which is there in the third paper, remember, in the syllabus. And I began. So yesterday I taught you the tragical history of Dr. Faustus. And then while I was teaching in the last fragment of the text, there were some technical issues. I could not complete it. In today's class, I'll take up another important text from the same paper, English literature from Chaucer to Milton, that is Geoffrey Chaucer's the General Prologue. I mean, the Canterbury Tales. That is, it's a narrative poem. It is a lengthy text. It is a masterpiece. It is, when you talk about narrative poetry, it's a classic text in the English literature in 14th century. Without reading Canterbury Tales, the General Prologue by Geoffrey Chaucer, then you need to fill the vacuum, so-called, the literary wealth. ಒಂದು ಸಾಹಿತ್ಯ ಲೋಕದಲ್ಲಿ, the English ಸಾಹಿತ್ಯ ಲೋಕದಲ್ಲಿ, if you don't read the Canterbury Tales, if you are not studied, it seems that still you need to pursue this text. So such is a great classics that we have, the General Prologue by Geoffrey Chaucer. This text I will discuss today. And today I have a 2 hours for first years, this session, and even in the afternoon session also I'm engaging other teachers class today. So in the 2 hours, I will try my best to complete this text, that is the General Prologue, the Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer. Before that, because I didn't feel complete when I discussed the tragical history of Dr. Faustus yesterday. So I want to give a final touch to it within 5 minutes, then I'll switch over to this text, Geoffrey Chaucer. So remember, the Dr. Faustus is completed his almost 24 years, and he's going to damn forever. The devils are coming to take his soul away. That is a description I was talking yesterday. Remember, but there is one particular scene, Dr. Faustus, he's appealing. Whom is he appealing? Yarana bedkoltidane to safeguard him. Look at the plight of Dr. Faustus. One drop of Savior's blood may wash away all his sins. The God's, the Christ holy blood, one blood may wash my sins. Let me be blessed by the God. In the description, he appeals to the mountains of fall down to cover me. Oh mountain, you fall upon me so that I hide somewhere. He doesn't want to die now. He enjoyed the earthly pleasure, but he doesn't want to die. And he asks the earth, to the earth to wide open and swallow him. O earth, you wide open and we swallow me. Somewhere in the earth, below the earth, I survive. To the stars to rise me up like a mass of vapor into the very depth of dark clouds to save me. Oh stars, let me rise up to your place. Take me up, rise me up to your place so that I save myself somewhere in the amidst of clouds from the clutches of the devils, but nothing happens, all hopes are belied. So nothing will happen, but ultimately Dr. Faustus is going to be damned. See, such a great scholar, and look at his plight and condition. So the Dr. Faustus, he's going to die now. So the clock strikes 12. So 24 ವರ್ಷಗಳು ಮುಗಿತಾ ಬಂತು. The clock strikes 12 and there is thunder and lightning. There is a thunder and lightning. The devils enter and choke him to death. They hold him and they strangle and they died him. They killed him and he died there. And tear his body to pieces and snatch away his soul to hell for the eternal damnation. They kill him and they take the body to the eternal damnation. And this is how the Dr. Faustus tragedy we come across in this text. This is an important text, The Tragical History of Dr. Faustus by Christopher Marlowe. This is a 10 marks question, and there will be also a short notes question for this text. There will be 15 marks will be asked for this text, and hope you are able to understand. I know you are understood the text, and now you are going to you're going to read the study material given by the university, and I know you read that well, and make organize your answer and write well in the examination. And the last final chorus, what does it say in the final, the chorus? There is a message. What is the message? The message, it is a lamentation for the premature death. ಒಬ್ಬ ಗ್ರೇಟ್ ಸ್ಕಾಲರ್ನ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಿಮೆಚೂರ್ ಡೆತ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನಾವು ಆ ಕೋರಸ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾನೆ. Such a scholar in a Wittenberg, and the great scholar, who is a theologist, who knows all branches studies, and he is no more. He died. It is a premature death, the chorus says. And then remember in the beginning, when in the beginning, the same chorus, he comes and informs about the Dr. Faustus, about his, about him. We understood about him. In the last final chorus also, he's talking about his tragedy. And in spite of all his scholarship and erudition, okay, and see, you people have to message here. Yeah. Now, yes, it's again on. So there is some variation. The internet connection is not stable here. We have been facing this problem since couple of days. Okay, gradually it will be all right. So, in spite of all his scholarship and erudition, despite of his erudition and his vicious ways in the sense VICIOUS, vicious in the sense the ketta ದಾರಿಗಳು, because of his vicious way of gaining power, on the ಕೆಟ್ಟ ಮಾರ್ಗದಿಂದ to gain the power and the position, brought this Dr. Faster's eternal damnation. So, what is the message that you learn from this? The message from this text is that, and this should serve as a great warning to whom? This is the warning to the entire, the clan, so called wise people. To the wise people, that one should never dwell deep. One should never endure, one should never, dwell into, such forbidden or a mysterious subject. So one should not dwell into this kind of forbidden or a mysterious subject. ಒಂದು ನಿಷೇಧ ಮಾಡಿರುವಂತಹ ಒಂದು ವಿದ್ಯೆ ಏನಿದೆ, ನೆಕ್ರೋಮ್ಯಾನ್ಸಿ, ದ ಮ್ಯಾಜಿಕ್, ದ ಬ್ಲ್ಯಾಕ್ ಮ್ಯಾಜಿಕ್, ಅದನ್ನ ಒನ್ ಶುಡ್ ನಾಟ್ ಟ್ರೈ ಅಂಡ್ ಡೂ ದ್ಯಾಟ್. Okay, and forbidden or mysterious subject as are rightly forbidden by heaven. So those details. So, what is this? The Dryden is another poet. He calls the prologue as "Here is a God plenty." This is the quotation. This is the line used by Dryden, another poet of the is a metaphysical poet, and he says that John Donne is a metaphysical poet, and John Dryden, who appears in Restoration literature, okay, Augustan age. So he calls this as here is a God's plenty. That means there are a number of people, all the sect of people. There will be a religious group. There is the merchant class. There is all the varieties of group people are there in this the Canterbury Tales. So that's the reason why he calls it here is a God's plenty. There are the varied section of society, the all how we categorize a society into different form. The different people are there, so all people are gathered here. For example, we have a knight, he's a soldier. We have a prioress, she belongs to the religious group, and the monk is a religious group, and the wife of bath and the parson. So all varieties of people are gathered here. So now, when we talk about the Geoffrey Chaucer, the Canterbury Tales, the general prologue, here the Chaucer has been acclaimed as the father of English poetry. So we consider him as the father of English poetry. And then, who are his contemporary writers? His contemporary writers are, the Wycliffe, songs only on religious formation. They talk about religious formation, and we have Gower and the Langland, and there are many the Longland. They are the contemporary writers of Geoffrey Chaucer. And the age of Chaucer was remarkable for many significant political, religious, and social activities. So this is the background that you all have to understand. So what is there in this? So the Canterbury Tales has universal appeal. His characters are present even today in this society in one form or the other. The characters that we come across in this people in this text, the narrative poem, are much more applicable to the present scenario. So I must tell one thing. What is that? In the 14th century life, the Black Death, it was they rampant in the life of the people. So the people were dying due to the Black Death. So what happened? They all have to go to God. They think that there is something has happened here. So that's the reason why all this, the people are dying due to plague, the Black Death, and which struck the England 4 times. Many people in London had been killed. So there is some violation. There is some uh, the religious issues are interwoven here. The religious issues are much more there. So what happened? Because due to this, the people they decided to go to Canterbury, where they're going to pay their respect. So the people go to Canterbury to pay their dues to the martyr Thomas Becket. So they decided to go to a holy shrine where Thomas Becket, he is a martyr. So in case if they go to there and put the prayers and all that, so probably this disease will be vanished. This disease will be go off, and people will safeguarded. So this is how this all this Canterbury Tales. So this is how the Geoffrey Chaucer he begins his tale. So Chaucer tells that in the month of April, when the spring showers bring freshness and life to all the plants, fruits, and flowers. So Chaucer says that April month is a spring season. April is the sweetest month, where they can take they can take and they undertake a journey towards the Canterbury Tales in order to take the blessings of the holy martyr saint called Thomas Becket. So there are all kinds of people. I tell one by one who are there. So so they gather, and they decided to go to Thomas Becket holy shrine. Okay, and this is one thing. So now come back to this. How this who are these pilgrims? So there are the three divisions of evil So it got again. So it's all happening due to internet connection. I'm glad that it's connected again. So here, I told you there are the 29 pilgrims. They are going to undertake a journey towards holy shrine called Canterbury. It's a place where the holy martyr, the okay, I try my best. ಆಯ್ತಾ? Okay, ಆಗ್ಲಪ್ಪ. Okay. So I consulted a technique, internet connections. Anyhow, this is very simple. The Canterbury Tales, in the prologue, there are 29 pilgrims. They decided to undertake a journey to the holy shrine called Canterbury. The way Thomas Becket holy shrine is there, so they are going to take the blessing so that they'll be blessed. That's the reason. So they undertake a journey during spring season. And why? So the great shrine of Thomas Becket at Canterbury was the chief center of pilgrims. So during the 14th century, I told you the people were dying due to Black Death. They are dying due to plague disease. So in case if they go to Canterbury and take the blessings, the sins will be cured. That is an intention. So what happened? Okay, this session, what to do? See, you're saying there is a lot of internet connections, technical problems are going on. So in a way, we have to cope up with. But one thing is sure, from 29, we are conducting online classes. I mean, offline classes in the university, and try to attend the classes so that you will have an interaction, the face-to-face interaction. So come back to here, the great shrine of Thomas Becket, at Canterbury was the chief center of pilgrims. So that is a place where the people can go and take the blessings from the God, like the way we go to all religious temples and all that. So the shrine was famous for its cures. In case if the people suffer from disease, in case if they go over there, their disease will be cured. That is one belief. That's the reason why the 29 pilgrims, they undertake a journey. I must say, who are the pilgrims? So there are there are many people here. If you want me to name them, I just tell one by one. So these are the 29 people. So I describe in my class all the important characters. For example, we have the knight. He belongs to he's a soldier. The knight, the square, the yeoman, the nun, monk, friar, and the merchant, clerk, the lawyer, and then the franklin, 5 guildsmen, the cook, shipman, doctor, a wife of bath, the parson, miller, reeve. So there are 29 characters. The host also. There is a host who is going to, give information to these pilgrims, and he also advise them to tell 2 stories while going and while coming back. So the best storyteller will get the good supper. That's also he tells them. So all the 29 pilgrims, they gathered at a place called Tabard Inn. Tabard Inn, it's a hotel. It's a place, the way all the 29 pilgrims, they gathered, and then they decided to undertake a journey. That's point number 1. So here there are 3 components. One is, so all the pilgrims, 29 pilgrims, they're going to take the blessings by the Thomas Becket in a temple, and the reason is the whole society was suffering from Black Death, the plague disease. And here, the 29 people, all the pilgrims, they gather at a hotel called Tabard Inn, and where there is a host who is going to give them supper, the best supper for the best storyteller. So while going, they all have to create some, tell some stories Okay, in order to avoid this kind of monotony. ಅವರ ಒಂದು ಜರ್ನಿ ಬೇಜಾರಾಗಬಾರ್ದು ಅನ್ನೋ ಒಂದು ಕಾರಣಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ they decided to tell stories while going and while coming, two stories. So all the 29 characters, 29 pilgrims. So now, so I think this you got the point. The Canterbury Tales, the prologue to the Canterbury Tales. So it was a custom in those days to owe pilgrims on a recovery from illness. So now you understood. 14ನೇ ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ಸಾಹಿತ್ಯದ ಒಂದು 14ನೇ ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ಒಂದು ಏನಿದೆ ಒಂದು ಸೊಸೈಟಿ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಒಂದು ರಿಲಿಜಿಯಸ್ ಅನ್ನೋ ಒಂದು ವಿಚಾರ ತುಂಬಾ ಇತ್ತು. Because I must tell one thing. See, this is the one issue that, see, in the 14th century, the effects of the Renaissance and the Reformed Christianity during the reign of King Henry VIII. King Henry VIII ali, there was a lot of reformation took place in Christianity. Okay, and there was a lot of revival of Europe, art and literature under the influence of the classical modes of 14th and 16th century. So a lot of reformation in terms of religion took place during that time. So here, another important thing is that the Canterbury Tales begins in April month. This is for the exam point of view, just listen carefully. The Canterbury Tales begins in April as the narrator, the Chaucer begins a pilgrimage from the Tabardine at the southward to the Canterbury, where Sir Thomas Becket, martyr, he's a Christian martyr, and he's supposed to be buried. And he's buried there, and they are all going to take the blessings by him. So now, what happened here? So this is how the poem begins with. The melting at the Tabardine. So all the characters they gathered. The Charger has a friendly talk with the pilgrims, and all agreed to So here the poet, he's giving a descriptions about every pilgrims. So now, number one, whom does he describe? He describes, see, the poet proposes to give a descriptions about all the 29 people. So he talks about every character. Now he talks about the knight. Knight ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಅವನೇನೋ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾನೆ. Knight in the sense is a soldier. KNIGHT, knight. So the poet proposes to give a description of his fellow pilgrims. The sort of people are there, they are the kind of the conduct, their attitude and everything. So it is natural and a proper for Chaucer to begin his description with the knight, because knight is a man who has some ethics, morality in his conduct, because he's the one who served for the nation's sake, isn't it? Because he has the moral obligation to protect the country. So according to Chaucer, the knight is the first person. With the knight, because he was a man of highest rank among the pilgrims. So Geoffrey Chaucer, he calls the knight is a man with the utmost rank among all the pilgrims. So now, dear students, did you get an introductory part? What is this text is all about? So all the 29 pilgrims, they undertake a journey, and they're going to where the Canterbury. From where? From the Tabardine on the hotel ಇಂದ ಅವರು ಕ್ಯಾಂಟಬರಿ ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ಯಾತ್ರಾ ಸ್ಥಳಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. Why they are going? Because they are going to take the blessing by the God. And once they touch the the holy shrine, they feel that yes, they are blessed, and all our disease will be cured. So this is the motto of the entire the poem, that is the Canterbury Tales general prologue. ಸೊ ಜನರಲ್ ಪ್ರೊಲಾಗ್ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಒಂದು ಇಂಟ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ. ಸೊ ಜನರಲ್ ಪ್ರೊಲಾಗ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಒಂದು ಕಾಮನ್ ಇಂಟ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಟು ಹೂಮ್? ಟು ಆಲ್ ದ ಪಿಲಿಗ್ರಿಮ್ಸ್. So that we here the Canterbury Tales are the tales which are told by this the 29 pilgrims. The tales are not introduced in your syllabus. We have introduced the general prologue, a common introduction about all the 29 pilgrims. All right, did you get that? So now, coming back to the first man that the Chaucer is describing about, the first person, he is giving his introduction about this knight. So what Chaucer talks about the knight? He says about knight because he belongs to the highest rank. The soldier got the highest rank according to Chaucer. So now, So now, the knight is a fine specimen of chivalry. The chivalry in the sense the nobleman. So he's a chivalry. He's a horseman. He's a horseman, and he's the hero of 1,000 fights. So he made 1,000 fights, and his valor is tempered by gentleness and modesty of behavior. So the knight, according to Chaucer, probably in your exam, they may ask you to analyze five important characters in the general prologue. So then, if you write, because I'm going to describe all the 29 characters, and preferably I choose some 5 to 6, characters, and the rest of the characters that you have to read yourself, because we have provided you the study material. So I'll pick up the four important characters, hardly 5 to 6 important characters. So you have to give a description about, for example, we may ask you, write a brief note on the knight in general prologue. Otherwise, discuss five important characters in the general prologue. Then you have to describe the main important characters. So, according to Chaucer, the knight is the first person. So let us learn about, what he speaks about the knight. The knight is a fine specimen of chivalry. Knight, he is a very respectful man, and he won many battles. He's a nobleman, he's a horseman collectively. He's the hero of the 1,000 fights. His valor is tempered and the gentleness and modesty of behavior. So he is a man of modesty and the gentle. And now, what he say further? And there is a soldierly plainness in his attire which individualizes his character. So he joined the team, he joined the journey, the pilgrimage, and in his usual attire, in his usual, the uniform. Who? The knight. So there we understand, yes, he's a knight. So he's a model of bravery, courtesy, and temperance. This man, knight, is known for the modesty and bravery and courtesy and temperance. And now, after that, how does Geoffrey Chaucer he analyzes character? So Charles, I mean the knight, he was bound to serve in war. He's bound to serve in the war. Okay, and then. And he was bound to serve in the war. Of the description in this portrait is devoted to the battles that the knight fought. If his fighting career is very much impressive. He fought with many wars, and his fighting career is very much impressive. And he fought in Alexandria and Africa. In the battles like Alexandria and the Africa, he fought in Armenia and the Russia, in the Moorish kingdom and the Mediterranean. So these are the places he fought. He did this war against. So here the Alexandria, Africa, and Armenia and the Russia and Mediterranean. In these places, this our knight is the fought very well, and he brought victory. This is how this is how Geoffrey Chaucer he is glorifying this character. Okay, and after that, what is the next traits? What is the next important quality of the knight? And his personal qualities, his love of honor, truth, and courtesy, may be traced to the medieval world of chivalric romance. His code of conduct, generosity, and equal consideration towards everyone are meant to highlight his essentially Christian character. He appeared to be a mere Christian character. And then the knight was seated at the head of the table, and honorable place was given to him as a mark of distinction. So when they undertake a journey, among the 29 characters, 29 pilgrims, ಯಾತ್ರಿಕರಲ್ಲಿ ಇವನಿಗೆ ಮೊದಲನೇ ಸ್ಥಾನ ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಮತ್ತೆ there is a separate place is given to him as a mark of distinction. They all know that the knight is the distinct person. He's an important person. So there is a separate, the place is given to him. In fact, it is the knight who tells the first story which is appropriate to his rank. Okay, would commonly have 2 horses and so on. So he wears a kind of coarse cloth, and his cloth is very coarse because he fights and he is in a battlefield, and he does not bother to remove the stains his dress. He appears as though he just come from the battlefield, had just come from the war. He hastened at once to perform the pilgrims without changing his attire. He's coming to the pilgrim to the journey without changing his dress, and that shows that how sincere he was and all that. So now we are introduced another character. The character is the prioress. The prioress is a nun. Okay, now we understood that she belongs to the religious group, that is a ecclesiastical group. So I told you in the beginning of my narration, here the Geoffrey Chaucer, he talking about the different sect of people. ಹಲವಾರು ಬಗೆಯ ಒಂದು ಒಂದು ಏನೋ ದ ಡಿಫರೆಂಟ್ ಡಿವಿಷನ್ ವಿಭಾಗಕ್ಕೆ ಸಂಬಂಧಪಟ್ಟಂತಹ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿಗಳ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಈಸ್ ಡಿಸ್ಕ್ರೈಬಿಂಗ್. ದ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಟಾಕ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ ದ ಸೋಲ್ಜರ್. Okay, and he is a man of in the devotion of his country. He's a noble man. So now we understand, now we learn about the prioress. ಒಬ್ಬ ನನ್ನ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನಾವು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ತಿಳ್ಕೊಳ್ತೀವಿ. So how does Geoffrey Chaucer describe his descriptions about the prioress? The prioress is the head of all religious establishment. She was perhaps educated in the Benedictine nunnery. There she was educated. Where she was educated? She was educated in a Benedictine nunnery. Subsequently, she became the lady superior of the nunnery chapel. So she was the head in a chapel. And now, so refinement and a little vanity are expressed in her features, dress, and manners. So there is a little vanity. She was a little arrogant, the pride that we can see while looking at her face. Because when all the 29 pilgrims, Yatrikuru, when they gather, they look at one another and look at how Geoffrey Chaucer he describing their attitude, their mannerisms, and their attires so keenly. He is there as a true commentator, as a critic. He is observing everyone. Including the poet, it's a 29 people set a journey towards the holy shrine. Holy shrine in the sense ಒಂದು ದೇವಸ್ಥಾನ, ಅಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಅವರೆಲ್ಲ ಹೊರಟಿರ್ತಾರೆ. So now, what about the prioress further? The prioress hails from an aristocratic family. She comes from an aristocratic family. She is a good-looking and fashionable, and a well-shaped nose and a delicate mouth are pleasing attributes. And a vivid account of her table mannerisms is given the next eating without dropping a morsel. This is very important. Probably when you read general prologue, especially the prioress, what is the most important traits, quality in prioress in the sense? It is the way of having food. See, the moment our table mannerisms is given next eating without dropping a morsel. Not even ಒಂದು ಹಣ್ಣದ ಹಗಳು ಕೂಡ ಬೀಳದೆ ಹಾಗೆ she had that a habit of having food. So without dropping a morsel and drinking without staining a cup, and dexterous use of fingers instead of forks and spoons. So that is a table mannerisms. And there is a pendant on which a motto was the Virgil is engraved. So there is a dollar she is wearing, and there is a line which is engraved on the dollar. What is that? The pendant. What is that? That is love conquers all. ಇಂಥ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆಗಳೆಲ್ಲ ನಿಮಗೆ UGC SLT ಅನ್ನೋ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್, ಪ್ರೈರಸ್ ವೇರ್ ಮಾಡಿದಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಡಾಲರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವ ವಾಕ್ಯ ಇತ್ತು ಅಂತ they give some options, and you people have to write the right answer only when you know the answer, when you read the poem. So ಇಂಥ ಕೆಲವು ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆಗಳೆಲ್ಲ ಈ ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿ ಗ್ರ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಕಮಿಷನ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ಸ್ ಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾಣಿಸ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುವಂಥದ್ದು. they appear. So there is one particular line that is love conquers all. So that is a line which is engraved in the pendant wearing by the prioress. For example, what is engraved in the dollar that that is been and she would weep if one of her owns dead, if someone smote it with a stick. And she separate and a very special love for this the pet animals. So she shouldn't wish anybody to beat it with a stick or whatever. And she would feed them with the waste bread, a fine kind of bread which was something of a luxury. Only the rich class of people could afford it. She would also love her pet animals. So the prioress and adopts a fancy name on taking a religious oaths. and her name is Madame Egaltine. So this is very important. The prioress had another name, a fancy name called Madame Eglantine. So this is a word that has been used. Her name is Madame. Yeah, I think yes, it connected again. So now we wonder whether the Chaucer intends to present the prioress as a lady more devoted to secular refinements. So Chaucer finds a kind of a secular refinements than a spiritual virtue. So, and then on the other account, it is intended to give a gentle irony on a prioress. So there is also gentle irony that Geoffrey Chaucer gives on this character. This is about the prioress. So now our writer, the Geoffrey Chaucer, is talking about the monk. Let us see what he's talking about on the monk. So the monk is a type of the worldly ecclesiastical with a commanding presence. He also belongs to a religious group, that is a ecclesiastical group. Ecclesiastic, ecclesiastical in the sense a religious group. Those who belong to the Christian, I mean the church. So here the monk belongs to that group, and he is well fed and richly dressed. So this monk is also is looking quite sturdy and is well dressed, and he's a keen sportsman. He's a keen sportsman, and he takes more pleasure in hunting than strictly obeying the rules of his order. I feel that Geoffrey Chaucer is really ridiculing. He's commenting the monk here. How does he commenting? He says that he takes more pleasure in hunting. ಆ ಬೇಟೆ ಆಡುವುದರಲ್ಲೇ ಈ ಮಾಂಕು ತುಂಬಾ ಸಮಯ ತಗೊಳ್ತಾನೆ. He enjoys, he indulging in taking, I mean hunting, than in a strictly obeying the rules of his order. On the Christian rules na, he was not following it, but rather he was hunting. That is the bitter satire, ಒಂದು ಬಿಟರ್ ಐರನಿ ಅಂತ ಏನ್ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ ನೋಡಿ, ಒಂದು ತುಂಬಾ ಕಟುವಾಗಿ ದ ಜೆಫ್ರಿ ಚಾಸರ್ ಈಸ್ ಕ್ರಿಟಿಸೈಸಿಂಗ್ ಮಾಂಕ್ ಹಿಯರ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಬಿಗಿನಿಂಗ್ ಆಫ್ ಹಿಮ್ಸೆಲ್ಫ್, in the beginning of this narration. He does not care for the discipline or of the cloister. He has great interest in rearing the greyhounds and wearing a sleeves lined with the finest fur found in his land. So this man, he has a different attitude. In most of the details, the monk betrays calling of medieval monastic life. So he was not fit for the monastic life. So indirectly, Geoffrey Chaucer, he's saying that this monk is not at all look like a monk, and he does not have any qualities of a monk. Then why? What are the things that he is, he's not able to follow it? Why he's not following the strict, the rules of Christianity? Because one is, the which is forbidden not to hunt, but whereas he was hunting, and he was not following the rules of. So the monastic orders were governed by certain rules laid down by the founders. There is some regulations, rules, and all that, how a monk has to behave, but this monk is not following. So look at that, how Geoffrey Chaucer very keenly observing these people. He's called as a realistic, very naturalistic, and very realistic approach. He is without bias. He's giving a minute description about all the 29 characters. That is the general prologue, a general introduction about the characters. There is nothing, okay? But the monastic orders were governed by certain rules laid down by the founders. The rule of Saint Benedict was the oldest. Saint Augustine was a Benedictine monk. He advised the clergy to conform to the strict monastic life. So there are people like Saint Augustine and the the Benedict, how a monastic life has supposed to be. He preached to labor is to pray. So the monastic has a fixed routine of prayer and work. So the monk has to keep prayer and has to keep work. They were supposed to live in austere life. ಆಸ್ಟೀರ್ ಲೈಫ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಒಂದು ಸಿಂಪಲ್ ಲಿವಿಂಗ್ ಅನ್ನ ಅವ್ರು ಫಾಲೋ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. A primary function of the monks was regular worship on behalf of their people. The monk, they're supposed to keep prayer. And in those days, monasteries were also centers of learning. Besides, they gave shelter to poor and sick people. Judge these standards, Chaucer's monk is leading a thorough worldly life. ಆದರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿರುವಂಥ ಮಾಂಕ್ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ, ಅವನು ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಾಪಂಚಿಕವಾದಂಥ ಎಲ್ಲ ಪ್ಲೆಜರ್ ಅನುಭವಿಸುವಂತ ಈಸ್ ಮಿಸ್ಲೀಡಿಂಗ್, ಈಸ್ ಲೀಡಿಂಗ್ ಎ ಥರೋ ವರ್ಲ್ಡ್ಲಿ ಲೈಫ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಈಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಫಾಲೋಯಿಂಗ್ ದ ರಿಲಿಜಿಯಸ್ ಡಿಕ್ಟಮ್. ರಿಲಿಜಿಯಸ್ ಒಂದು ತತ್ವಗಳನ್ನ, ರಿಲಿಜಿಯಸ್ ಡಿಕ್ಟಮ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಡಾಕ್ಟ್ರಿನ್ ಅವನು ಫಾಲೋ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಹಿ ಈಸ್ ದ ಮಿಸ್ಲೀಡಿಂಗ್ ದ ಎಂಟೈರ್ the religious group, whereas he's thoroughly enjoying the worldly life. So here Chaucer deliberately make a bitter satire on the monk. And further, the monk is often went on his horse wearing expensive boots, and he to wearing the expensive boots and riding across the estate. He enjoyed listening to the bridle jingles, and which is a sign of frivolous obstination. So he has some silly traits, attitudes and habits. He was fond of hunting. He has So this monk, the religious person, should not consume the non-veg. But whereas this man, he used to hunt mare and he used to consume them, the rabbit. And monk, enjoying the comforts of the monastic life, he is living an utterly worldly life. And then, what is worse, he makes fun of the monastic rules he is supposed to maintain. Chaucer is therefore harsh in the treatment of his character. So Geoffrey Chaucer appears to be very harsh when he talks about, when he treats this character. For example, there'll be a question in the exam. How strictly, how harshly, and how does Geoffrey Chaucer treat the monk? How does he describe the monk in the general prologue? Now you have to write all that, the very authentic details. You're not supposed to write, on your own. You have to look at that. I am reading from, textbooks. I'm explaining the story from the textbooks. So you have to write the textual lines. So you have to, if you take down whatever I've been narrating in my entire lecture, probably if you take down in a sheet itself, that itself gives you a very conceptual, the very cognate picture, and that you can make use for your exam point of view. So now there is another important, another important character that I'm going to discuss here. That is, we have the friar. The friar is also another. The friar is a cunning and a greedy specimen of the mendicant orders. He's also belonged to the same religious group. He's a very strong, well-built man. So now this is the fourth man. The first is the knight. Second, it is who? Second is the prioress, and the third is the monk, and the next I'm describing it is the friar. FRIAR. Probably you all might have written your assignments, and you are you have learned about these people. And the friar is a cunning and greedy specimen for the mendicant orders. He's a strong, well-built man. Yes, he's a strong, well-built man, and with a white neck. So what happens? He demands money for the deciding a dispute. For example, people quarrel themselves. In order to solve the problem, he takes money. Such is the bad traits of Friar. And he's a favorite of all the rich people in his district. So he's a favorite of all the rich people in the district. Besides, he knows the taverns in every town. The hotels in every place, and every innkeeper and the barmaid better than knowing a leper or a beggar. He doesn't, he doesn't know about the key, innkeeper or a beggar or a leper, but he knows all the rich people, in the entire districts. In appearance, speech, and action, the friar is a figure of hypocrisy. So Geoffrey Chaucer is ridiculing very bitterly, and he does not have even the worldly attractiveness of the monk. He is a corrupt from within. He does not have a single features of being a monk. That is a word that he uses. And how? And he is a corrupt from within. So he is corrupt. And what happened? A friar is a mendicant priest with a certain district limit assigned to him. So he is some limitations, is given to him, so that he'll look after everybody, and he solicits alms for carrying on his profession. The beggary or voluntary, the poverty is a cardinal principle of life. So this man, he is not maintaining certain duties that he has to follow. So this is a small descriptions about the prior, and after that we have another important character, that is merchant. So probably I'm just throwing the light on the few the traits, qualities of each character, so that he be able to complete the text within a given time. So now he's talking about the merchant. So what about the merchant? He belongs to the trade group, right? He's an economic group, and the trade group and the business group. So far we have learned soldier, and he's a nobleman, and after that many religious group people, and now we have the merchant. The merchant is a typical portrait of a traveling businessman. He epitomes the entire traveling business. He's a man of means and substance. He's respectably dressed. So he dressed well. The moment Geoffrey Chaucer, as another the pilgrim, is sitting amidst of the people. ಅವನು ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಜನಗಳ ಜೊತೆ ಇದ್ದಾಗ ಅವನು ಎಲ್ಲಾನು ತುಂಬಾ ತುಂಬಾ ಮೈನ್ಯೂಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾನೆ. So when the moment he looks at the merchant, what is his response? The response is, the merchant is a typical portrait of a traveling businessman. He's a man of means and a substance. He is respectably dressed. This man has some sort of standards, and in his both in his approach as well as dressed appearance. Hope, dear students, you are able to connect. Did you get any? Did you make any sense out of it? Are you getting the the entire the Geoffrey Chaucer, the general prologue? Probably, because I'm glad, because since you have your study material, you can just as much as possible try to understand and try to interlink with your study material and narration, and then you will certainly understand the text. So, and he speaks with a gravity and talks about his gains. Yes, now it is a merchant, and he speaks with a gravity and talks about his gains. No one could suspect he was in debt. That means he's a rich man, and no one could suspect he was in debt. He was a very business-like in all his transactions. He's a typical, a business-minded person. And here, the merchant represents the rising middle class in a medieval society. ಅಂದ್ರೆ 14ನೇ ಶತಮಾನದ ಒಂದು ಮಿಡಿವಲ್, ಒಂದು ಮರ್ಚೆಂಟ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಹೆಂಗಿತ್ತು ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ನಮಗೆ ಇವನನ್ನ ನೋಡಿ ಕಲಿಬೇಕು. The general prologue, it is very much applicable to the today's contemporary life. Don't we see a characters like a soldier in contemporary society? Don't you see the prioress or the nun, or the merchant and soldier? I mean, all the characters are very much applicable to a current situation. So what we say is that the same society, what is existing today, the same prevalent society was also prevalent during 14th century. So you can just interlink. And further, the merchant, he represents the rising middle class in a medieval society. So while understanding about, while knowing about the merchant, we can visualize how was the medieval, this merchant class was there. He comes from the, he's this merchant. this merchant wears a plated wear, a fashion common in the Middle Ages. His dresses is mostly a multicolored, a characteristic of the merchant class. Money lending, condemned by the medieval church, is one of his activities. He gives on credit to inspire confidence in his customers. So he would gives on credit, and he makes he always talks about the project and the public affairs. He makes profit by exchanging coins or currencies in a different markets. So this is his transaction. What is that? He gives on credit to inspire confidence in his customers, that yes, they will able to repay a fine day. So he's instilling kind of confidence by giving a credit, and he always talks about projects and public affairs. This is another interesting qualities, traits of this person is the project and the public affairs. He talks about those things, and he makes profit by exchanging coins or currencies in a different markets. So he was selfish and shrewd. This is another important thing. And this man is a selfish and a shrewd, a very John Mendai, a clever person. Though he's a successful businessman, he was a successful businessman. Charger is critical of his greed and dishonesty. And though this merchant was a very successful man, and the Charger say that he's still critic of this person, because merchant is as a greed and dishonest person. So this is about our character, that is merchant. Now there is another important character that we have is the clerk of Oxford. Probably some characters will be asked for 10 marks, and rest of the characters will ask for 5 marks. So whichever the marks division it is, and you people have to thorough with your knowledge on these characters. So now let me come back to the clerk of Oxford. This is the one, the clerk of Oxford. The clerk of Oxford has all the characteristics of a scholar. So far we have come to know about other distinct character. He is a man of scholar, an educated person. So far we have the merchant and religious group people and the knight. And don't you think so, as I told you earlier, so Charles, he is describing the different sect people of the community. ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಬ್ಬ ವರ್ಗದ ಜನರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾನೆ. Okay, all right. So the clerk of Oxford has all the characteristics of a scholar, which means he himself is accepting he is a scholar. He is as lean as a horse he rides. He was a very lean man. He also rides horse. He cares much more for his books than for his attire. ಅವನಿಗೆ ತನ್ನ ಬಟ್ಟೆಗಳಿಗಿಂತ ಹೆಚ್ಚಾಗಿ he is fancy for the books. So it's very much sure he would love for his books than for the dress. And his studies have not brought him wealth. He is dependent on his friends for support. So he was still dependent on friends. He speaks but little. What he utters is said in a grave and reverential tone. So his speaking mannerisms is such that he speaks but little. How? What he utters is said in a grave and reverential tone. ಅವನು ಮಾತಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಆ ಒಂದು ರೆವರೆನ್ಷಿಯಲ್ ಟೋನ್ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಒಂದು ಭಕ್ತಿ ಭಾವ. ನಾವು ಸಾಮಾನ್ಯವಾಗಿ ಟೀಚರ್ಸ್ಗಳಿಗೆ ಈ ಪದ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, ರೆವರೆನ್ಷಿಯಲ್ ಟೀಚರ್, ರೆವರೆನ್ಷಿಯಲ್ ಪ್ರೊಫೆಸರ್, ರೆವರೆನ್ಷಿಯಲ್ ಲೆಕ್ಚರ್. That means you're giving a kind of a devotion, respect towards the teacher. So when he talks about, we understand there is a reverential tone in him. He's full of high thoughts and moral reflection. He's full of high thoughts and moral reflection. So absolutely, a scholar must have these traits. He's full of what? He's full of high thoughts and moral reflections. And he's as good, he is glad to learn of others to teach them himself. So he would love to learn from people, and so does he learns from people. He learns it from people, so does it inspire people to learn from him. So there is a reciprocal. So here is a man, and dear student, it's a 1:30. I'm going to start the session. Probably in the noon session I'll continue this lecture. In the noon session I'll talk about I'll talk about the clerk of Oxford, and after that we'll talk about the cook and the shipman, and another important character, that very important character, that is the wife of Bath. So the wife of Bath is a very important character. I'll talk about wife of Path and another character, that is the parson. Probably after that, I'll just try to complete the text, this Canterbury Tales. So, dear students, now I just want to have a little interaction with you people. If you have any question on this text, you can even put it in the chat box. So we have left with 1 minute, so that because I know that in between there is some technical problems, internet problem. It's quite common in this online platform. We come across, we confront this problem quite often. But anyhow, we people, we always look forward to teach in a in a classroom level, because we used to teach our university. We would conduct classes only through eye-to-eye contact. We would come to all the centers, like we come to Gulbarga, Dharwad, Udupi, and all the centers wherever our university has the centers. We would come over there and teach. That was a practice earlier, and probably sometimes, like sometimes we also have to do this an online platform classes, because some students are not able to attend the classes, and for them it's helpful. But in between, if there are some technical glitch, you have to kindly bear with that, and we are always there to help you out for your exam preparations, and any text that any doubt that you have in the text, you can always talk between the official time, and make sure between 10:30 to 5:30. And we have our video classes are also available in the KSO YouTube channel. You can also attend my previous classes. There are there. And anyhow, again in the noon, I have my class. At 3 to 4, it's madam class, but I'm going to take that class, and we are interchange. So today in the afternoon class between 3 to 4, I complete this text. That is the general prologue by Jeffrey Chaucer. So if there are no questions, I wind up the session, and I see you people. And so far, I taught this 3 important texts: the epilogue, and then the tragic history of the Dr. Faustus, and then the general prologue. In rest of the 2 days, we'll try to finish the rest of the text. Okay. Yes, absolutely. In the offline also, the same text will be done. Okay. And in case if you have any prerogatives, some texts have not dealt, if you inform much in advance, those texts will be handled. But in the offline classes, the same class will be conducted. Probably on Mysore, so you try to attend the classes, so that there'll be probably when it is eye-to-eye contact classes, there'll be much more effective, because you ask your doubts, you clarify your doubts, for which this platform is not conducive, not such a student-friendly platform, because that I'll be talking and you will be listening, except you just only can send messages. Okay, and I hope that you, some extent, you understood the text, the kernel, the substance of the text. Andre ಈ ಒಂದು ಟೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ನ ಒಂದು ಏನೋ ಒಂದು ಥೀಮ್ ಇದೆ, ಮೆಸೇಜ್ ಇದೆ, ಅದು ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಈಗಾಗಲೇ ಒಂದು ಅರ್ಥ ಬಂದಿದೆ ಅಂತ ನಾನು ಭಾವಿಸ್ತೀನಿ. In the noon class, I try to complete the text. Thank you. Then I'm leaving the session. I'll meet you between 3 to 4 class. Thank you.